Today, we are going to talk about the Buddha, whose name was Siddhartha Gautama. There is no single, universally agreed upon record of the exact time he lived, but most scholars believe he lived sometime between the 6th and 5th centuries BCE. He was born in Lumbini, an area in what is now modern-day Nepal, near the border of India. This means he grew up in a culturally and religiously diverse world, deeply influenced by the ancient Vedic and Brahmanical traditions of his time. His teachings eventually developed into a complete system of ethics, philosophy, and spiritual practice, what we now call Buddhism. If we look at his life purely from a historical point of view, it might seem to begin with his birth and reach its peak at his enlightenment. But in the Buddhist tradition, that answer is incomplete, because Buddhism does not see reality as limited to a single lifetime, a single body, or a clearly defined beginning. From a Buddhist perspective, the appearance of the Buddha was not accidental, nor was it just one ordinary birth. It was the result of a very long journey, a path of awakening that unfolded across time. So, in this video, we are not only telling the story of a historical figure, we will also explore how Buddhism understands who the Buddha was, where he came from, and how modern scholars view the historical Buddha. And this story begins in a quiet place. At the foothills of the Himalayas stood a city called Kapilavastu. It was the capital of the kingdom of Kapilavastu and the ancestral home of the Shakya clan. This was where the future Buddha, Prince Siddhartha, spent his childhood. But in Buddhist understanding, the story of a Buddha does not begin at birth. According to traditional Buddhist cosmology, there has never been only one Buddha in history. Over spans of time so vast, they are almost impossible to imagine, the world forms, endures, dissolves, and begins again, and again. Time is not a straight line, but a continuous cycle. Within these long ages, there occasionally arises a being who fully sees the truth of existence, who awakens to the nature of birth, aging, sickness, and death, and becomes a Buddha. After awakening, a Buddha does not simply depart. Instead, he chooses to remain, to teach what he has seen, and to guide those still lost in confusion. Yet, as time passes, the teachings are misunderstood, simplified, or forgotten. People are once again pulled by desire and fear, and the world falls back into ignorance. And so, Buddhas no longer appear until a new age ripens and another awakened one is born. In Buddhism, these awakened ones are known as the Buddhas of the past, the present, and the future. What matters is this: each Buddha does not awaken to a different truth. What they teach is always the same path, the Dharma, because the structure of suffering has never changed, and the way to liberation has never changed. For this reason, Siddhartha did not see himself as creating a new philosophy. In his own understanding, he was simply rediscovering the same truth that countless Buddhas before him had already seen. So, to understand the life of the Buddha, We cannot see him only as a historical figure. He is one link in a long chain of Buddhas, an awakened being who appears again and again across cycles of existence to remind the world of what has been forgotten. And his story quietly unfolds from this peaceful city, Kapilavastu. The city was not noisy. In the early morning, the air carried the scent of grass and trees. The river moved slowly, and in the distance, the snow-capped mountains stood quietly, as if watching over everything in the world. The people of the city often looked up at those white peaks. They believed that above the clouds dwelled powers that guarded the world. Because of this, the people here acted without hurry, spoke softly, and even measured their days a little more slowly than elsewhere. Kapilavastu was also called the Red Earth City. In the morning, some would go to the river to wash away the night's fatigue. In the evening, every home lit lamps and whispered their prayers. In the market, garlands mingled with the scent of spices. Children ran through the narrow streets, and elders sat under trees, slowly chanting ancient phrases. The people here did not always speak of wealth, nor were they driven by power. What concerned them more was this: why do people suffer? Can the mind ever truly find peace? From time to time, wandering ascetics would arrive in the city. Carrying worn backpacks, they came from distant forests, faces weathered by wind and sun, but also carrying questions. The city's nobles prepared a wooden hall for them. There were no statues or idols, only mats and oil lamps. During the day, people would sit together and talk. At night, the flickering lamps did not stop the discussions. Some said the world was real. Others said it was nothing but the illusions of the mind. Ordinary people could listen freely, and even if they did not understand, it did not matter, as long as they were willing to listen. In this city, truth was not the privilege of a few. It was something to be questioned again and again. And on this quiet, gentle land, a child was about to be born. He would leave the palace, walk into the forests, and spend a lifetime answering the questions that the people here had already been quietly asking for a long time. On the fertile and peaceful land of Kapilavastu, there lived a compassionate and wise king, King Siddhartha. His name means one who nurtures beings through pure and righteous ways. Born into royalty, King Siddhartha preferred listening to others rather than making others listen to him. He understood deeply that the dignity of a throne did not lie in conquest, but in protection. The city often saw wandering ascetics passing through. Some came from the forests, others from distant lands, dressed in worn clothes, feet dusty from travel. King Siddhartha never shunned them. He would invite them into the palace and offer water to drink. He listened as they spoke of life and death, suffering, and why the mind cannot find peace. He respected both Brahmins and ascetics, offering them water, flowers, and fruits with sincere devotion. He honored all beliefs, seeing truth not in the divisions of faith, but in the purity and sincerity of the heart. Under his rule, Kapilavastu was not only prosperous, but also largely free from conflict. And it was in this environment that the king began to await the arrival of a child. He did not yet know that this child would not inherit the throne, but would walk a path far more challenging and far wider than kingship. It was a morning in spring, the season of blossoms. In the Lumbini garden, flowers bloomed in abundance, filling the air with fragrance. A gentle breeze stirred the petals, which swirled in the air like blessings falling from the sky. In this sacred garden, Queen Maya of Kapilavastu reached out to touch the branch of a sal tree, and in that moment, the earth trembled. Light poured down from the clouds. Birds fell silent. All of nature seemed to pause, holding its breath, as if awaiting the birth of someone extraordinary. And so, a child was born, pure and clear as the morning light. He was calm, without a cry. His eyes opened, gazing upon the world as if it were not unfamiliar. People were amazed. The ascetics whispered among themselves. Soon, a prophecy spread. This child is extraordinary. If he remains in the world, he will become a wheel-turning king, ruling over all lands. If he renounces worldly life, he will awaken as a Buddha and guide countless beings to liberation. King Suddhodana felt both joy and worry upon hearing this. These words were both a herald of glory and the beginning of fear. And so, he silently vowed to use every worldly pleasure to keep this prince, who might one day turn away from the throne, within the palace walls. The prince was named Siddhartha Gautama. Siddhartha means one who achieves his goals, and Gautama refers to his clan. He grew up under the most careful and devoted care, a childhood free from worry, surrounded by the best teachers and the most rigorous protection. King Suddhodana hired the most learned masters of the age to teach him poetry, martial arts, astronomy, and philosophy. But it soon became clear that the child already seemed to understand everything. His gaze was far-reaching, his mind sharp, and he could grasp the most complex teachings with a single insight, as if these truths were simply memories he was recalling. The king felt both pride and fear. He knew deeply, only by keeping his son's heart bound could he prevent him from walking the path of awakening. So, King Suddhodana built 3 palaces of unparalleled luxury for the prince. The winter palace was warm as spring, the summer palace cool as a forest, and the spring palace overflowed with the fragrance of flowers, accompanied by music and dance. No matter the season, the palaces were filled with gold, music, and celebration. To shield Siddhartha from the suffering of the world, the king decreed that no old, sick, or dying person and no funeral procession could ever be seen by the prince. Outside the city gates, sorrow, grief, and illness were separated by countless barriers. To Siddhartha, the world appeared bright and harmonious. Everyone young, everyone healthy, everything flourishing, as if decay had never existed. It was a man-made paradise, a carefully constructed illusion that allowed no glimpse of truth. To deepen the illusion, the king arranged for him to marry Yasodhara, the most beautiful and gentle princess of the land. Their wedding was grand, with crowds of guests. Night after night, the palace rang with music and dance. Around the prince swirled performers and melodies, scents, and lamps that made the night as bright as day. Yet, within this lavish palace, Siddhartha grew increasingly quiet. When the celebrations were in full swing, he often did not join. While dancers spun and lamps shone brightly, his eyes would wander past the crowd, resting on the night beyond. Late at night, when the palace quieted, he would sit alone by the window, watching the moon rise. And then a question would return, again and again. Why are we born into this world? And where are we going? He did not ask anyone for an answer. He simply sat, letting the question reside in his heart. Gradually, images began to appear in his mind. While sitting quietly, he saw the cries of infants, the stooped backs of the elderly, the moans of the sick, and bodies lying still. The images were brief at first, but each time they returned, they became clearer. By day, the palaces remained splendid. By night, these visions quietly returned to him. The music, the fragrance, the laughter, none of it could keep him fully at peace anymore. He began to sense the world was not only what he had been shown, and his life was not merely for pleasure. He could not yet explain what this was, only that a restlessness was slowly growing in his heart. And at that moment, fate was preparing to let him see the truth with his own eyes. One day, Siddhartha asked to go out into the gardens. King Suddhodana consented, but ordered the entire city to be cleared. No elderly, sick, or poor people were to appear. Only young, healthy, and joyful faces were allowed on the streets to greet the prince. The next morning, Prince Siddhartha rode out in a gilded chariot. Flowers fluttered along the streets, and the people cheered in celebration. Amidst the joy, suddenly an elderly man appeared, stooped, frail, and white-haired. No one knew where he had come from. It was as if he had appeared directly before Siddhartha. The old man walked with great difficulty, his body wasted and fragile. Siddhartha had never seen such a sight and asked his attendants in shock. The charioteer bowed and replied, "Prince, this is old age. Every living being is subject to the passage of time. None can escape its effects." Siddhartha was deeply shaken and felt a surge of compassion. A few days later, he ventured out again. This time, he saw a person lying on the ground, pale and struggling, groaning in pain. Siddhartha asked, "Why is he suffering so?" The charioteer answered, "This is sickness. Rich or poor, no one can escape it." Saddened, Siddhartha lost all desire to continue his journey and ordered the chariot back to the palace. On his third outing, the prince encountered a funeral procession. The deceased lay rigid and silent in the coffin, while the mourners' cries filled the air. Siddhartha asked the charioteer, who explained, "This is death, the final destination of all life. His heart was pierced with grief. He reflected on the impermanence of the world. All beings are born into suffering and ultimately face death. The splendor of this world is like a fleeting dream. At that moment, Siddhartha felt as if his heart had been struck by lightning. He sat in silence, overwhelmed by a compassion and shock he had never known before. Looking out at the distant mountains and rivers, he suddenly understood. The images that had appeared in his meditations were not illusions. They were the truth of life itself, impermanence. Then he saw another scene. A wandering ascetic, simply dressed, sat alone by the roadside, calm and composed, with a serene expression. Siddhartha asked, "What is he doing?" The charioteer replied, "He is practicing asceticism, seeking a way to escape old age, sickness, and death." Siddhartha gazed at the man for a long time. In that moment, he realized for the first time, the world is full of suffering, but not everyone chooses to ignore it. Some see impermanence clearly. Some begin searching for a path to liberation. These four sights opened in Siddhartha's heart like doors that could not be avoided. For the first time, he asked himself clearly, if aging, sickness, and death are inevitable, then what is the purpose of life? Is there truly no path out of this suffering? From that day on, his meditation was no longer mere contemplation. It became the beginning of awakening. Siddhartha knew that a path lay before him, a path beyond the gilded palaces, a path that no one could pave for him, a path that required renouncing love, renouncing status, renouncing everything. This path would later be called the Way of Bodhi, the path to awakening. Not long after, Yasodhara gave birth to a son. Siddhartha named him Rahula, which means obstacle. The palace was adorned with lamps and decorations, and King Suddhodana was filled with joy. Yet Siddhartha remained silent. He held the sleeping child in his arms, gazing at the peaceful face, but his heart felt no joy. He knew clearly this was not fulfillment, but a new attachment. Gently, he stroked the child's forehead and whispered to himself, "You too will grow old, fall ill, and die." The child slept quietly. Yet even in this calm, Siddhartha could not avoid the truth. Since witnessing the visions later called the Four Sights, the world had changed completely in his eyes. At night, he would sit alone by the window, moonlight spilling into the chamber, quiet and cool. Over and over, he asked himself, if birth leads inevitably to aging to sickness, and sickness to death, then what is the purpose of life? Is there truly no path out of this suffering? This question could no longer be silenced. That night, he made a vow in his heart. If I do not find the path to liberation, I will no longer remain at peace in this life. He began to feel the pain of others more clearly, and he no longer avoided his own unrest. Siddhartha understood at last. To end the suffering of all beings, he must first leave behind everything he relied upon. That night, the palace slept. He entered the chamber, looking at his sleeping wife Yasodhara. and his infant son, Rahula. He did not wake them. In his heart, he made a vow. If I cannot find liberation, this love will only be taken away again and again by impermanence. And so he turned and left, removing the prince's robes, relinquishing the throne and his titles, becoming a wandering ascetic. After leaving the palace, Siddhartha traveled alone through wilderness and forest, eventually reaching Rajagaha, the capital of Magadha. It was a land surrounded by mountains, deep forests, and home to many ascetics and sages who had withdrawn from the world, seeking truths beyond life and death. In the forest, the prince met a learned ascetic named Alara, a Brahmin scholar well-versed in the Vedas and Upanishads, regarded by his disciples as a guiding light towards celestial wisdom. Siddhartha respectfully became his student, hoping to find answers to end suffering through scripture and practice. Under Alara's guidance, Siddhartha began a life of severe austerities. He lived far from all worldly comforts. Some ascetics drank only water. Some survived on roots and wild fruits. Some exposed themselves to scorching sun or stood through the night in cold winds, believing that physical suffering could purify the mind and bring them closer to the divine. Siddhartha lived in caves with other ascetics, meditating, observing strict discipline, and practicing silence. He gradually reduced his food intake, eating only a single grain of rice each day. His body grew emaciated, his ribs clearly visible. He believed that if he could completely cut off desire and conquer suffering, he could attain liberation beyond the cycle of rebirth. He recited the ancient truth from the Upanishads. If the self can be truly known, the suffering of all things ceases. This phrase was like a lamp, giving him hope during the long days of ascetic practice. Yet, as time passed, he realized, even when desire was pushed to the extreme, the mind remained restless. In meditation, he saw that austerity could numb the body, but it could not extinguish the fire of ego. Deep concentration revealed the mind like a bright mirror, but once it waned, suffering returned. He began to question, if liberation depends on self-torture, how can the suffering of beings be truly relieved? If truth belongs only to those who endure extreme pain, is this not simply another form of attachment? Late at night, with wind sweeping through the forest, Siddhartha gazed at the stars and experienced a new insight. The root of suffering is not the body, but the confusion of the mind. True liberation is not found in extreme asceticism or in the words of Scripture, but in the wisdom of awakening. Looking at his fellow ascetics, many of whom were weakened by hunger or empty-eyed, pursuing supreme bliss, while life slowly withered away, he realized this was not the ultimate path. And so, at dawn one morning, Siddhartha left the cave. He bowed deeply to his teacher. Venerable One, your teachings inspire me, but I have not yet found the root path to end suffering. I will continue forward, seeking true liberation. From that day, Siddhartha departed the forest of austerities. Though physically weak, his mind was resolute. He realized both self-indulgence and self-mortification are extremes. Neither is the middle way. True wisdom is like a finely tuned string. Loose, and there is no sound. Tight, and it breaks. Only the harmony of the middle produces true music. He turned toward the plains of the Ganges, a vast expanse awaiting him to realize what no one had yet seen, the path of the middle way. At that moment, the light of awakening began to glimmer within his heart. That day, as the morning light filtered through the trees, Siddhartha was so weak he could barely stand. Suddenly, a milkmaid approached, carrying a bowl of porridge made from milk and rice. Believing the ascetic before her to be a holy sage of the forest, she respectfully offered the food. Siddhartha accepted it and drank silently. In that moment, warmth flowed from his throat into his heart. For the first time, he understood. The body is not the source of sin. It is the vessel for awakening. If one abandons life itself, how could one help others find liberation? A new understanding arose within him. Asceticism and indulgence are both extremes. True wisdom lies in the middle way. He walked to the Nirvana river, slowly removed his ascetic robes, and bathed in the clear water. Sunlight shimmered on the surface, and he saw his reflection. Not a prince, not an ascetic, but a being preparing to awaken. Siddhartha sat beneath a tree and closed his eyes, entering a deep meditation unlike any before. He no longer observed the outside world, nor followed thoughts. He simply allowed birth and death, pleasure and pain, desire and illusion to flow naturally in his mind, and he merely saw. As night fell, Mara, the tempter, came to disturb him, testing his mind with fear, desire, and doubt. But Siddhartha merely saw, without chasing, without resisting. In his deep meditation, he witnessed the cycle of life and death, countless beings falling from light into darkness, and from darkness back into light. He saw causes and effects intertwining like waves. A moment of greed causing suffering, a moment of hatred generating pain, a moment of ignorance creating endless rebirth. He saw ignorance like mist, causing beings to cling to I and mine, endlessly drifting through the 6 realms without rest. And then he realized the truth. Dukkha, suffering, is the reality of life. Samudaya, cause, is the origin of suffering, desire, and ignorance. Nirodha, cessation, is the end of suffering, when the mind no longer clings. Magga, path, is the middle way leading to peace and liberation. These 4 noble truths rose like a flame in the night sky, illuminating the deepest darkness of his mind. He understood completely. Life is not painful because of birth, aging, sickness, or death itself. Pain arises because people refuse to accept impermanence, clinging to the illusion of self and possessions. When the illusion of I is shattered, and the mind becomes like a clear mirror, accepting without grasping or rejecting, suffering naturally ceases. As the first rays of dawn pierce the leaves, falling upon his serene face, Siddhartha's heart fully awakened. He was no longer an ascetic, nor a prince. He had transcended the dualities of life and death, pleasure and pain, and had attained supreme enlightenment. In that moment, he became the Buddha. Siddhartha remained in deep meditation for 7 days and 7 nights. The first night, he witnessed the cycle of rebirth. In profound concentration, he saw countless beings drifting like dust, endlessly cycling between life and death. Some were born kings, yet sank into suffering through attachment to power. Some were born poor, yet through a single compassionate thought rose to the path of goodness. All life was driven by ignorance and desire, flickering like lamps in the wind. Siddhartha realized the suffering of beings does not lie in the outside world, but in the mind. When the mind is driven by desire, it can never find peace. For the first time, he saw clearly the truth of samsara, the endless succession of birth and death caused by unpurified thought. The second night, he understood karma and its consequences. Observing further, he saw that all things are woven by the threads of karma. A single thought of greed or hatred becomes a cause. A single act of kindness becomes a result. Beings struggle in the web they themselves have created. All suffering arises from the 3 poisons: greed, hatred, and ignorance. A profound compassion arose in his heart. The ignorant create karma without realizing it. The wise understand karma and are not bound by it. To end suffering, one must remove its cause. The third night, he realized the law of dependent origination. Observing the world, beings, and himself, he saw that all phenomena arise from causes and conditions and cease when causes vanish. Nothing exists independently, just as a lotus cannot exist without mud. He understood all things arise from causes and conditions. All things cease from causes and conditions. I, too, have no permanent self. The attachment to I collapsed completely, and he grasped the true meaning of no self and impermanence. The fourth night, he saw that all phenomena are empty. He observed that the world of form, sound, smell, taste, touch, and mind is like a reflection in a mirror or the moon on water, present but not truly substantial. Existence is merely a temporary aggregation of conditions. He smiled, mind vast like the sky. To see all phenomena as empty is to see the true nature. He realized that emptiness is not nothingness, but infinite potential. Because all things are empty, there is freedom, compassion, and liberation. The fifth night, he observed the mind itself and saw that thoughts arise and pass like waves chasing waves. Countless thoughts came and went, yet none could claim ownership. The mind is not fixed. Consciousness is not self. If one follows thoughts blindly, one falls into samsara. If one is mindful, one attains clarity. From the flow of his mind, Siddhartha realized the middle way. Do not cling to extremes. Do not fall into denial. Do not chase pleasure. Do not reject pain. Between motion and stillness, perceive the true nature. The sixth night, he transcended life and death. In boundless meditation, he saw countless past lives and saw beings in ignorance, afraid, fleeing, crying. Yet he remained calm, for he saw, death is not the end. Life is not the beginning. All is like a dream, coming and going like the wind. He transcended the duality of birth and death, experiencing the peace of nirvana. The seventh night, he attained supreme enlightenment. Dawn approached, and the eastern sky began to pale. Siddhartha's mind became like a vast, tranquil ocean. In that moment, he fully realized the Four Noble Truths: suffering, its cause, cessation, and the path, and the complete perfection of the Eightfold Path. As the first light of dawn filtered through the Bodhi tree, the illusory self dissolved completely, and the wisdom of awakening rose like the morning sun. The earth trembled, flowers rained from the sky, and the gods rejoiced. In this world, the great awakening has been attained. Siddhartha slowly opened his eyes. His gaze was gentle and clear, no longer limited to individual people or events, but perceiving the suffering and hope of all beings. He understood enlightenment is not for oneself, but to guide all beings toward the path of light. Rising from meditation, his mind became like a clear mirror, reflecting the universe. Nothing exists independently. All arises and ceases due to conditions. He saw the stars turning, flowers blooming and withering, wind stirring clouds, all beings interdependent, breathing and cycling together. He exhaled gently, a sound like a breeze passing through the world. How wondrous! All beings possess the wisdom and qualities of a Buddha, yet obscured by delusion and attachment. This was his first utterance as the Buddha. He realized that awakening is not his alone. The light exists in every being. Beings are like stars in the night sky, covered by dust, yet still shining. If anyone clears away the veil of ignorance, their light will naturally return. For the 7 days following enlightenment, the Buddha sat under the Bodhi tree, silent and motionless. He was not indulging in peace, but deeply contemplating how to convey this indescribable truth to confused beings. The god Brahma appeared and joined his palms. World-honored one, please teach the Dharma to the world. Many hearts, like lotus buds, have not yet blossomed, but have not withered. The Buddha remained silent for a long while, then smiled gently. The Dharma is deep as the ocean, and the world sleeps. But if even one person awakens upon hearing it, I must speak. Rising, his gaze was gentle yet firm. He knew that his journey had only just begun. This was another renunciation, from personal awakening to universal compassion. He set out northward, walking steadily and undisturbed by dust or distraction, towards Sarnath, the deer park, where his former ascetic companions still practiced, torturing their bodies day and night believing that would lead to truth. From afar, they saw the Buddha approaching and doubted, Siddhartha has abandoned austerities. Perhaps he has fallen into indulgence. But as he drew near, they could not help but bow their heads. The light he emanated was not the power of status, but a peace and dignity radiating from within. The Buddha sat gently on a dew-covered grass patch. A soft breeze stirred the air, as if the world itself were listening. This was the first time in human history that an awakened one spoke the truth to the world. The Buddha spoke, "Practitioners, if you wish to be free from suffering and attain happiness, you must avoid two extremes. One is indulgence in sensual pleasures, giving in to the body and mind. This leads only to delusion and destruction. The other is self-mortification, torturing the body in ascetic practices. It only exhausts the body and mind and does not lead to liberation. I have discovered a middle way. It is neither of pleasure nor of pain, like the moon shining in the sky, clear, serene, and free. Follow this path, and suffering will cease, leading to the calm of nirvana." His voice was gentle yet firm, flowing like a mountain stream, resonant like a bell. He continued, "This middle way is called the Eightfold Path, 8 steps leading to awakening. 1. Right view. See the world as it truly is. Do not be misled by ignorance or prejudice. By perceiving impermanence, you glimpse the truth. 2. Right intention. Cultivate compassion and wisdom. Let go of greed, hatred, and harmful thoughts. 3. Right speech. Speak purely. Avoid lying, harsh words, divisive speech, and idle chatter. Let words become bridges of peace and light. 4. Right action. Act rightly. Do not kill, steal, or commit sexual misconduct. Let your deeds align with the Dharma, purifying your life. 5. Right livelihood. Earn a living honestly. Do not rely on greed, deceit, or harm. Transform daily life into practice. 6. Right effort. Continually examine yourself. Strive without ceasing. Abandon what is harmful. Cultivate what is good. And increase wisdom. 7. Right mindfulness. Keep awareness constant. Do not get lost in fantasies, nor cling to the past, nor fear the future. Let the mind be like a lotus, arising in the world yet unstained. 8. Right concentration. Cultivate a mind steady as a mirror, clear in every moment. In stillness, observe all phenomena as illusions. In no self, perceive the true nature. The 5 ascetics sat in silence. The wind stirred the forest, carrying a faint scent of sandalwood. Every word seemed to strike at the core of the attachments they had carried for years. They had endured severe austerities, silence, hunger, and sleeping on thorns, yet had never experienced such clarity and peace. The Buddha continued, "The Eightfold Path is the way to liberation. But to understand suffering, its origin, and how it ceases, you must comprehend the four noble truths. The truth of suffering, dukkha. Life contains suffering, birth, aging, illness, death, separation from loved ones, meeting what is unpleasant, and not obtaining what is desired. This is suffering. The truth of the cause, samudaya. The root of suffering is greed, hatred, and ignorance. It arises from attachment to self and what belongs to me. The truth of cessation, nirodha. When desire ceases and attachment is released, the mind returns to calmness. This is nirvana. The truth of the path, magga. To reach nirvana, follow the eightfold path. Purify delusions with wisdom. Dissolve attachments with compassion. Beings, liberation does not lie in sacrifices, in prayers, or in self-mortification. It lies in recognizing the Buddha nature within your own mind. The true Buddha is not in the heavens, nor in temples. It is within your own heart. When the Buddha finished speaking, tears streamed down the faces of the 5 ascetics. They realized that all their years of rigorous practice had been like building castles in a dream. Now, they had truly awakened. Folding their hands and bowing deeply, they respectfully addressed the Buddha. World-honored one, please accept us as your disciples. From today onward, we take refuge in the Buddha, in the Dharma, and in the Sangha. In that moment, the first monastic community was formed, the first 5 monks. And so, the Buddha remained at the deer park. He did not rely on grandeur to impress, nor on miracles to command attention. He simply sat beneath an ancient tree, eyes lowered, voice calm, each word flowing from a deep silence, carrying a warmth that could soothe the heart. News of him spread like a spring breeze. People came from all around, along the banks of the Ganges, from the valleys of Magadha, from the plains of Kapilavastu. There were ascetics in coarse robes, kings and nobles in fine garments, merchants with heavy sacks, farmers and craftsmen with calloused hands. Each came with their own questions and hopes. Some sought blessings for the next life. Some sought escape from the suffering of this one. And some simply wondered, why do I strive so hard, yet remain unhappy? The Buddha looked at them and smiled gently. He did not distinguish between rich or poor, noble or commoner, belief or background. He invited all to sit, treating them as friends, and spoke the Dharma. In the past, people entrusted their fate to gods, believing suffering was punishment and pleasure a reward. So they worshipped in fear, life after life. But I tell you, suffering is not given by gods. It arises from ignorance and attachment. Greed disturbs the mind. Delusion leads one astray. When these 3 poisons arise, beings are trapped in the waves of samsara, and no amount of prayer can free them from this prison of the mind. But when you observe your own heart, seeing all as arising and ceasing due to conditions, without clinging or rejecting, the mind becomes free, like a lotus rising from water, unstained by the mud. He spoke of dependent origination and of compassion. All things arise interdependently, like waves in the ocean. They rise and fall, yet never leave the sea. When you harm others, you harm yourself. When you help beings, you heal your own heart. Therefore, do not rely on gods to save you. Begin with awakening within yourself. A clear mind turns everywhere into a pure land. A clouded mind, even in heaven, suffers. His words were like sunlight, piercing a thick, dark cloud, reaching hearts long shrouded in fear and guilt. Among the listeners, some wept uncontrollably, some bowed in silent reverence, and others awoke as if from a long, breathless sleep, finally inhaling their first clear breath. An elderly Brahmin fell to his knees before the Buddha, trembling. All my life, I have worshipped gods, offered sacrifices, sought forgiveness, yet never found peace. Today, hearing your words, I understand. The divinity I feared is not in the heavens, but within my own heart. The Buddha gazed at him with compassion, his eyes clear as autumn waters. When you see this, your mind is purer than the heavens. Rituals without awareness are only fire and smoke. But when even a single thought of compassion arises, the entire universe becomes the altar, and all beings become offerings. Son, from that moment, the Dharma began to spread throughout the world. From the woodland of Deer Park to villages along the Ganges, from teachings passed by word of mouth to the hearts of countless people centuries later, the Buddha used silence as speech and compassion as light, allowing humanity to understand for the first time. Liberation is not in the heavens. It is in the awakened present. Since then, Deer Park was no longer merely a quiet grove in the wilderness. It became a fountain of wisdom and compassion, a sacred place illuminating the hearts of all beings. One morning, the Buddha gathered his disciples. Bathed in the soft light of dawn, filtering through the forest, he smiled and said, "Bhikkhus, now that your Dharma eye is clear, you should become lamps for the world. My walking alone is of little benefit. I wish for you to go forth to the four corners, to teach the true Dharma and save beings. Take compassion as your vessel and wisdom as your rudder, so that many may cross the ocean of suffering." The disciples joined their palms in reverence. As the sun slanted across the treetops of Deer Park, 60 arahants rose, ready to begin their journey. Some traveled east, stepping onto the plains of the Ganges. Some journeyed south, entering regions where Brahmins lived. Some entered deep forests, living alongside wild beasts. Others followed bustling trade routes, speaking the Dharma softly amidst crowded markets and the clatter of carts, transforming hearts wherever they went. From that moment, the Dharma was no longer confined to Deer Park. It spread like countless rays of light through mountains and forests, valleys and villages, palaces and towns. It entered not only people's ears, but also their hearts, giving direction to the lost and bringing peace to the suffering. They carried no gold or silver, no provisions, only a single alms bowl, a robe, and a devoted heart. By day, they collected alms. By night, they meditated. They did not distinguish between rich or poor, noble or commoner. Some mocked them, others bowed in reverence. Some threw stones, and they looked back with compassion. Gradually, along the banks of the Ganges, people began to speak their names, messengers of the Buddha. They became living lamps, illuminating countless nights. The suffering found peace through hearing the Dharma. The blind saw light through awakening. The lost found an end to their confusion through insight. At Deer Park, the Buddha first taught the Dharma, explaining suffering, its cause, cessation, and the path. Many people then understood the direction of life. Yet the Buddha did not stop there. At that time, India was a land of many kingdoms, rich in philosophies. People loved debate and prized learning, yet often got trapped in words, seldom turning inward to see the root of suffering. The Buddha understood this well. If the true Dharma stayed in one place, it risked becoming a closed body of knowledge. Only by walking, by speaking, by teaching in diverse lives could wisdom truly take root. So, he donned his robe, took up his staff, gathered a few disciples, and set out on the path of wandering. From Gaya, they traveled through villages and forests, step by step, toward Rajagaha in Magadha. This was not merely a journey, it was a deliberate choice to bring awakening into the lives of people and to let the Dharma be understood and practiced in the reality of human existence. It was an ancient city built against the mountains, surrounded by hills, with palaces rising along broad streets and bustling marketplaces. The king of this land, Bimbisara, was wise and compassionate, and he had already heard of the Buddha's fame. Upon learning that this awakened one of the Shakya clan had arrived at his kingdom, he personally went out with his ministers to welcome him. King Bimbisara joined his palms in reverence and said, "World-honored one, I wish to offer this bamboo grove as a place for the monks to dwell and practice. May the true Dharma abide forever in this land." The Buddha smiled and graciously accepted. From then on, the Bamboo Grove Monastery became one of the Buddha's earliest permanent dwelling places. Every morning, the streets of Rajagaha were filled with monks carrying alms bowls. Their robes swayed like autumn leaves. Their steps flowed like water, silent and composed, commanding respect through their very presence. People began to know the name Shakyamuni, the wise and compassionate teacher. At that time, there was a young Brahmin named Shariputra. Born into a noble family, he was intelligent, eloquent, and well-versed in the 6 sacred texts and the Upanishads. Yet despite all his learning, he felt a void in his heart, sensing that knowledge is limited, but delusions are boundless. One morning, with the cool light of dawn, Shariputra walked through the city streets and suddenly saw a young monk approaching from afar. It was Assaji, a disciple of the Buddha. The monk moved with calm composure, holding a single alms bowl. His gaze was lowered, his expression serene, like a lotus leaf unmoved in the wind. He neither spoke nor acted, yet around him, the noisy bustle of the marketplace seemed to fall silent. Shariputra felt deep respect and approached him, joining his palms in reverence. "Venerable sir," he asked, "your presence is so pure and peaceful. Who is your teacher, and what practice do you follow?" Asaji lifted his eyes, smiled gently, and replied with a calm, soft voice. "My teacher is the prince of the Shakya clan, the Buddha. He has awakened to the true nature of all things, taking compassion as his heart and wisdom as his lamp." Shariputra asked again, "And what is the teaching that the Buddha expounds?" Asaji paused for a moment, then softly recited, "All phenomena arise from causes and conditions. All phenomena cease when causes and conditions cease. The great Shakya sage teaches that all things born of conditions are extinguished by conditions. If one understands the law of causality, one sees the Dharma." Shariputra stood still, and enlightenment dawned in his heart. If all things arise from conditions, then the self is but an appearance. Without a permanent self, where is attachment? Without attachment, there is no suffering. Without suffering, there is liberation. Overjoyed, Shariputra hurried to the home of his close friend, Maudgalyayana. They had been inseparable companions, sharing in the study of the Dharma and vowing, "If one of us finds the true teaching, we must tell the other." When Shariputra arrived, Maudgalyayana was seated by the window, and upon seeing his friend's bright expression and calm presence, he asked, "Friend, there seems to be a light in your eyes. Have you seen the truth?" Shariputra smiled and nodded, then repeated Asaji's words. "All phenomena arise from the union of causes and conditions. When the conditions disperse, they cease. If one can observe this arising and ceasing as it truly is, one will no longer be bound by birth and death, and will attain true peace." Maudgalyayana listened silently, speechless for a long moment. Then he whispered, "Shariputra, I understand. I have studied countless texts and commentaries, yet I remain trapped in words alone. Now I see. The teachings are merely guides, and true awakening is to see reality with one's own eyes." They bade farewell to their former teachers and came to the Bamboo Grove Monastery where the Buddha resided. As they entered the forest, they saw the Buddha seated among his disciples. Sunlight filtered through the bamboo leaves, casting a soft golden glow around him. The surroundings were utterly silent, as if even the wind had paused to listen. Overcome, the two bowed deeply in reverence, their hearts surging like a tidal wave. The Buddha's gaze was clear as water. He smiled gently and addressed the assembly. "These two shall become the foremost among my disciples. Shariputra shall lead in wisdom, and Maudgalyayana shall excel in spiritual power and courage." At that moment, the disciples all voiced their approval. The bamboo leaves rustled in the breeze, producing a crisp, resonant sound, as though heaven and earth themselves were affirming this destined connection. From that day, the two shaved their heads, donned the robes, and received full ordination, entering the path of the Buddha. Shariputra, renowned for his intellect and insight, could comprehend the Dharma at a glance and often discern the true meaning from a single phrase. He was honored as foremost in wisdom. Maudgalyayana, compassionate and diligent in meditation, could enter profound states of absorption and traverse the realms of existence, earning the title foremost in spiritual power. Together, one the intellect, the other the heart, one the insight, the other the compassion. They assisted the Buddha side by side, spreading the teachings across the land like the sun and moon illuminating the world. Countless beings awakened from delusion, heard the Dharma, dispelled ignorance, and began the path toward liberation. Thus, the light of the Dharma spread beyond the Ganges, flowing through forests and plains, illuminating countless hearts. From the deer park to the bamboo grove, from one awakened being to thousands who followed, the Dharma, like a lamp, was passed from one to another, guiding beings to their true home. Over time, the Buddha's disciples grew in number. In the streets of Rajagaha, it became common to see monks walking with alms bowls. Their steps were steady, robes autumnal in hue. Nobles and commoners alike bowed in respect. People spoke of the awakened one, of the Shakyas, who did not rely on power or grandeur to influence others, yet could humble the arrogant and bring peace to the sorrowful. The Bamboo Grove Monastery became a ceaseless place of teaching. Seekers came from all walks of life. Scholars came to debate philosophy, farmers to inquire about suffering, merchants to seek peace of mind, widows to find release. The Buddha turned no one away. He said, "The Dharma is like the great earth, bearing all things. Whoever comes with a sincere heart can receive the teaching." This marked the moment when the Buddha's teachings truly took root in the human world. Years later, while the Buddha continued to spread the Dharma in Rajagaha, a letter quietly arrived in his hands. It came from his long-departed homeland, Kapilavastu. The handwriting was familiar, aged yet steady, and the signature read, King Suddhodana. The Buddha unfolded the letter. It read, "My child, the world now speaks of your awakening and compassion. The prophecy has been fulfilled. I do not fully understand the truth you have realized, nor dare to speak of the depth of the Dharma. Yet, as an aged father, I long to see you once more before I depart from this life." There was no reproach in the letter, only the warmth of a father's love. It was more than a summons. It was a resonance of karmic connection, a reflection on the past, illuminating the path he had walked. The Buddha understood. He must return, not merely to see his father, but to bring the light of awakening to the land that had nurtured him. At dawn, the Buddha set out with a few disciples, journeying home. When they arrived in Kapilavastu, the city erupted in excitement. "The prince has returned! The prince has returned!" News spread like wildfire. Streets and alleys were draped with garlands and banners. People of all ages pressed forward to catch a glimpse of the Shakya prince. But when they saw the barefoot monk in simple robes, a wave of awe and confusion rippled through the crowd. Is this truly the prince? At the city gates, King Suddhodana had long been waiting. 12 years of longing surged in his heart. When he saw that familiar face, calm, serene, yet no longer belonging to the worldly realm, tears blurred his vision. And yet, as he observed his son walking barefoot with an alms bowl, a tangle of emotions rose: guilt, loss, even a touch of anger. He murmured, "My son, once the crown prince of the realm, now walks as a beggar. What humiliation is this?" The Buddha approached, his expression gentle, his gaze soft yet profound. Hands joined in reverence, he bowed. "Father, the path I follow is not one of renouncing glory for its own sake, but a path to free beings from suffering. A crown may protect a kingdom, but awakening can protect countless beings." His calm words washed over King Suddhodana's heart like a gentle breeze. He stared at his son in stunned silence and suddenly realized he had not lost a prince, he had gained a saint. That night, the Buddha accompanied his father, King Suddhodana, into the palace. He did not return to his former chambers, but instead sat quietly on a stone platform in the garden. A gentle breeze rippled across the lotus pond, and the moonlight poured down like silk. The king sat beside him, listening intently as the Buddha spoke of dependent origination and impermanence. "Father, all phenomena arise and cease due to causes and conditions. Wealth and power are like dreams, glory and honor like dew. To cling to them as permanent brings suffering. Only by letting go can the mind find peace." King Suddhodana remained silent for a long while, tears streaming down his face. At last, he released 12 years of attachment and felt a profound inner calm. From that day forward, he listened to the Buddha's teachings daily, gradually attaining right view, so that at the time of his death, his mind was untroubled, and he passed away in peace. The Buddha also visited Yashodhara, the former princess. She no longer wore jewels, instead dressed in pale yellow robes, her expression serene and still as water. Time had washed away sorrow and resentment, leaving only deep compassion and understanding. When they met again, she prostrated herself in devotion, tears streaming like rain. The Buddha lowered his gaze upon her, his eyes clear and free of desire, free of attachment, free of personal joy or sorrow, filled only with profound compassion and respect. In that moment, Yashodhara finally understood. What he had sought was not abandonment, but liberation. What he had left behind was not love, but clinging. Smiling through her tears, she whispered in her heart, "I understand. You never left me. You were guiding me toward freedom." Later, the Buddha ordained his own son, Rahula, who had been a newborn the night he left the palace. Now, a young boy, Rahula was intelligent and quiet. When the Buddha shaved his head and gave him the precepts, the boy said, "May I walk the path of my father with a pure mind. Rahula became the youngest monk, known for his reserved and contemplative nature, and was praised by the Buddha as foremost in secret practice. After Rahula's ordination, many palace attendants and noblewomen also sought ordination. Yashodhara led them, requesting that the Buddha allow women to enter monastic life. The Buddha remained silent for a long moment, then nodded. If the heart is devoted to the path, there is no distinction of male or female. All beings possess Buddha nature. All can attain awakening. Thus, the Bhikkhuni Sangha was established, a radiant light of compassion, now extending to half of humanity. That day, the setting sun dyed the skies of Kapilavastu crimson. The Buddha stood outside the city gates, knowing that the glory of a royal lineage had transformed from bloodlines and power to a legacy of awakening and compassion. After leaving his homeland, the Buddha continued on his journey of spreading the Dharma. By then, his fame had reached across the 5 regions of India, with disciples in every kingdom. Kings, ministers, scholars, merchants, and even poor farmers and beggars came to hear him teach. Yet the Buddha never claimed personal credit, nor did he elevate himself above others. He often said, "I merely point out the path to awakening." Whether one walks it entirely depends on the being themselves. Traveling eastward, the Buddha and his disciples arrived at the lower reaches of the Ramapati River, a tributary of the Ganges. Along its banks, greenery flourished. Rice fields swayed golden with harvest, and the city rose in majesty. This was Shravasti, one of the wealthiest capitals of northern India at the time. Shravasti was ruled by King Prasenajit, a wise and just sovereign. The kingdom was peaceful, commerce thrived, and the bustling markets were filled with spices, silk, gems, and grain flowing endlessly. Yet beneath this prosperity, many struggled with poverty, sickness, and sorrow. Some, despite their wealth, remained restless and anxious. The Buddha, seeing this, felt boundless compassion. He knew that Shravastra was a place where the Dharma could truly take root. At that time, a wealthy merchant named Siddhartha Bandika, known as the giver to the solitary, lived in the city. Renowned for his generosity, he used his wealth to aid the poor and feed the hungry. People called him giver to the solitary because he always helped orphans and those in need. One day, while traveling through Magadha to visit friends, Siddhartha overheard people speaking of a great awakened master, Shakyamuni Buddha. Among the listeners, some wept, saying, "I heard the Buddha speak, and my doubts vanished. I understand now that suffering is not fate, but something that can be understood and ended." Siddhartha was deeply moved. Immediately, he inquired after the Buddha's whereabouts and learned that the master was staying at the Bamboo Grove Monastery. Without hesitation, he set out at night. Before dawn, in the thick mist of early morning, he reached the edge of the grove. In the distance, a golden light flickered, like moonlight dancing on leaves, like starlight scattered through the forest. He paused and looked closely, seeing a monk in saffron robes sitting beneath a tree, calm and serene. a faint halo surrounding him. That was the Buddha. Siddhartha's heart was filled with reverence. He approached and bowed deeply, trembling as he spoke. World-honored one, though I am wealthy in possessions, my heart is impoverished. I wish to dedicate the rest of my life to giving, seeking only to hear the true Dharma. The Buddha smiled, his voice gentle as a breeze over clear water. Excellent, venerable one. Giving is not measured by wealth, but by the heart. If one gives with compassion, even a single grain or a drop of water carries infinite merit. But if the heart clings to the self, to the gift, or to the recipient, then even the wealth of the entire world becomes bondage. Hearing this, Siddhartha wept, as if parched for years and now quenched by sweet rain. He immediately made a vow. I will build a pure, serene monastery in Shravasti and invite the Buddha and his disciples to reside and teach, so that countless beings may hear the path to awakening. The Buddha remained silent, offering no reply. Siddhartha, sensing this as a test, pledged to return to the city and construct the monastery. Back in Shravasti, he searched for a suitable location and finally discovered a tranquil grove on the southern outskirts, owned by Prince Jeta. Siddhartha approached the prince to request purchase. Prince Jeta laughed. This garden is my favorite place. If you wish to buy it, you must cover the entire ground with gold. Then I shall part with it. Thinking it a jest, Siddhartha arranged for thousands of gold coins to be spread across the land the next morning. Astonished at such sincerity, Prince Jeta was moved and donated the grove itself, providing the trees as a shared offering. Thus, the site became known as Jetavana Monastery, meaning Jeta's Grove, built jointly by Prince Jeta and Siddhartha, the giver to the solitary. When the Buddha arrived at Jetavana, he saw the serene and sacred land and felt joy. He said, "This place is tranquil and excellent. It is suitable for the monks' dwelling and study, and also for beings to come and hear the Dharma." From that time onward, each rainy season, the Buddha and his disciples would reside at Jetavana for 3 months, teaching and guiding countless beings. The halls were solemn, the forest breezes gentle. Monks rose at dawn to chant, and at dusk sat in meditation. The sound of the Dharma blended with the bird song. Incense mingled with the wind. Those years became one of the most peaceful and profound periods in the history of Buddhism. At Jetavana Monastery, the Buddha delivered countless timeless teachings. He recited verses from the Dhammapada, expounded the Anicca Sutta on impermanence, and the Kalyana Jivitadhamma Sutta on wholesome living, among many others. He once told his disciples, "If the mind is pure, all phenomena are pure. If the mind is troubled, there is no peace in the world." True practice does not lie in distant mountains. It is cultivated in a single thought. Each teaching was like sweet rain nourishing the heart. Kings laid down their pride. The suffering glimpsed a smile. Mothers in grief released attachment over lost children. And Brahmin scholars, in heated debates, came to understand the truth of impermanence. When the sunset bathed the far edge of Jetavana in gold, the Buddha would sit quietly with his disciples, listening to the wind, rustle through the bamboo, watching the moon rise in the sky. He would smile and say, "Though this garden was built with gold, its true treasure is the awakened mind. Gold will crumble, but the Dharma, once transmitted, endures forever." Shravasti, thanks to Jetavana, became one of the brightest lights in all of India. From here, the Buddha's teachings once again flowed like rivers, eastward and southward, into the boundless lands of the human heart. Those who came after would recall those days. In the night breeze of Jetavana, if one listens quietly, one can still hear the voice of the Buddha. It is not mere words, but the light of compassion. It does not fade with time. It becomes a gentle wind that forever touches the hearts of beings. The years the Buddha spent at Jetavana were among the most peaceful and illuminating of his life. By then, he was middle-aged, seasoned by ascetic practices and enlightenment, with a mind as clear as a mirror, unstained by worldly attachments. He did not rule his disciples as a king would, but illuminated them with equality, compassion, and wisdom. A day in the life of the Buddha began at dawn, when the sky was still pale and the leaves shimmered with dew. At the first chirping of birds, he would rise slowly. His disciples offered him pure water, which he accepted with both hands, washing his face with a single drop as an act of inner purification. In silence, he conveyed a serenity that seemed to still heaven and earth. Sitting cross-legged, he entered deep meditation, observing the in and out of his breath, witnessing the arising and passing of all phenomena. In this contemplation, he saw the movement of beings' minds, the origins of sorrow and joy, the roots of suffering and love. As the sun filtered through the trees, illuminating the ground, the Buddha donned his robe, its hue like autumn leaves, simple, gentle, yet carrying an unspoken majesty. Taking up his alms bowl, he went with his disciples into the city to beg for alms. The people of Shravasta were familiar with this quiet presence. He walked the streets and alleys without avoiding the wealthy or shunning the poor. At each household, he stood silently. If someone offered alms, he smiled and clasped his hands. If no one responded, he turned away serenely. People gradually understood that this alms round was not about asking, but about giving. The Buddha offered an opportunity for the giver to plant seeds of virtue, for the reluctant to observe the stirring of their own minds. As he said, the alms round is not for seeking food, but for giving the Dharma. Both giver and receiver become bound by the law of merit. In the afternoon, he returned to the monastery to share a simple meal with the monks: rice, vegetables, and well water, yet all partook with gratitude and contentment. The Buddha often said, "If the mind is grateful, even a bowl of rice is an offering. If the mind is greedy, even delicacies become poison." After the meal, he would enter the forest alone to meditate. Shadows of trees danced across his serene face as sunlight dappled his skin. Sometimes he remained silent. Sometimes he walked in meditation with his disciples. Each step, each breath, mirrored the calm of flowing water. When the breeze stirred, he would pause to watch fallen leaves at his feet, the lesson of impermanence he most often taught. He did not write sutras or commission statues, yet through every act, his disciples could perceive the presence of the Dharma. At dusk, the monks gathered in the lecture hall. The wooden fish struck softly. Incense rose in spirals. The Buddha sat on a low cushion, his gaze as gentle as the moon, his voice deep and steady, like a drum or a bell. He spoke not of divine power, but of the human mind, the very mind trapped by greed, hatred, and delusion, yet capable of transforming suffering into wisdom, ignorance into awakening. He taught the Four Noble Truths. Suffering, dukkha, is the essence of life. Its origin, samudaya, is craving and attachment. Its cessation, nirodha, is nirvana. The path, magga, to liberation is the middle way. He expounded the Eightfold Path: right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration, layer by layer, clearing the fog of human minds. He reminded his disciples, the Dharma is like clear water, taking the shape of any vessel. If the mind is pure, even a drop can reflect the moon. After hearing this, the monks sat in quiet reflection. Some wept, some smiled with palms clasped, and for many, their hearts were truly still for the first time. As night deepened, wind rustled through the bamboo. The moon reflected on the pond. Disciples dispersed through the grove. Some sat in silent meditation beneath the trees, observing their minds. Some walked meditation under the moonlight, their steps soft as wind over dust. Some chanted sutras beneath the stars, their voices low, resonating with the night sky. The Buddha returned to his small chamber, lying on his right side in the lion's posture. This was not sleep, but rest and concentration. In that stillness, he observed the world, the suffering and joy of beings, rising and falling like tides. Every thought, every cry entered his awareness. Scriptures tell us that at night, the Buddha often conversed with celestial beings. The devas came to seek the Dharma. Humans heard its echoes. The three realms bathed invisibly in the light of the law. This was not a mystical miracle, but the resonance of awakening with awakening. When one mind is truly still, it can attune to all frequencies of compassion. Thus, during those years, Jetavana Monastery became the center of wisdom and compassion. By day, people came from all directions to hear the Dharma. By night, lanterns lit the monks' silhouettes. These figures, like lotuses blooming in darkness, were silent yet luminous. The Buddha's life was simple as breath, ordinary as water, yet in silence it transformed an era. With a single alms bowl, he taught equality. With one robe and one bowl, he showed freedom. With a mind of compassion, he revealed that true wealth is not in possession, but in letting go. This was the Buddha's life. No palace walls, no attendants, only one bowl, one robe, one smile, and a mind clear as water, at ease and free. He rose with the sun and rested with the sunset, not for fame nor to escape the world, but so that each breath, each step, became a practice of awakening. One day, a young monk asked the Buddha, "World-honored one, your daily life appears so simple, yet you are always so serene and joyful. We have practiced for many years, yet we still wander amid worries and struggles. Why is that?" The Buddha looked at him and smiled gently. He said, "Because I have crossed the river of afflictions and walked the 6 paths to the far shore. Those 6 paths are called the 6 paramitas." The disciples fell silent in reverence. The Buddha spoke slowly, explaining the true meaning of each of the 6 perfections, paths followed by all bodhisattvas, and bridges for ordinary beings from this shore to the far shore. 1. Generosity, dana. The Buddha said, the first step of practice is to learn to give. One does not need to be wealthy to offer. Everyone has a heart capable of giving. He told a story. A poor woman, with only a single bowl of rice remaining in her home, saw the Buddha entering the city to beg for alms. She moved in her heart and respectfully offered the bowl. The disciples worried she would go hungry, but the Buddha folded his hands and said, "What she gives is not rice, but a mind at ease. She has transcended wealth and poverty because she has let go of what I own." Generosity is not only the giving of material things, but the opening of the heart. When a person can give without fear, they begin to connect with the universe's goodness. As the Buddha said, a single act of giving with a compassionate mind surpasses 100 years of unpracticed merit. 2. Morality, Shila. The Buddha told his disciples, morality is not a chain that binds you, but the beginning of freedom. Morality is like a riverbank, keeping the practitioner from being swept away. Like a lamp, illuminating the path in darkness. He often compared it to a lamp with a cover. Without a cover, a lamp is extinguished by the wind. Discipline is the cover that protects the flame of good intentions from being snuffed out by greed, hatred, and delusion. Those who keep moral precepts do not need external supervision, for their own hearts are their guide. True discipline is not guarding against the outside world, but purifying the inner mind. When the mind is unstained, the world becomes naturally clear. 3. Patience, Khasanti. One day, a hot-tempered Brahmin publicly insulted the Buddha with harsh words, his anger blazing like fire. The Buddha remained calm and unmoved. The Brahmin, frustrated, demanded, "Why do you not respond? Are you afraid?" The Buddha answered serenely, "If someone offers me a gift, and I do not accept it, to whom does it belong?" The Brahmin was stunned. "It naturally remains with the giver." The Buddha smiled. "Yes. Your anger I do not take. It remains with you." Those who heard this bowed their heads in silence. The Buddha said, "Patience is not weakness, but strength. Only those who are not dragged by anger are true warriors." He often taught his disciples, the hardest battlefield in the world is the mind. To conquer others is strength. To conquer oneself is true strength. 4. Diligence, virya. The Buddha's footprints stretched along both banks of the Ganges, from Rajagaha to Shravasta, from the deer park to Vesali. Whether under scorching sun or pouring rain, he walked barefoot so the Dharma might reach more hearts. When disciples urged him to rest, he smiled and said, "Practice is like climbing a mountain. If you stop, you will slip." Diligence is not measured by speed, but by perseverance. He did not replace persistence with enthusiasm, nor substitute effort for merit. In every breath, he reminded himself, awakening cannot be forgotten. True diligence is not busyness, but constant awareness. No matter favorable or adverse conditions, the heart does not retreat. No matter day or night, the spirit remains clear. 5. Meditation, dhyana. At dusk, when shadows lengthened across Jetavana, the Buddha often sat cross-legged in the bamboo grove. He spoke no words and allowed no wandering thoughts, simply observing the in and out of breath, the arising and passing of the mind. A disciple once quietly asked, "World-honored one, what is meditation?" The Buddha answered, "Meditation is not closing your eyes to forget the world, but opening them to see it clearly. When the mind is like a bright mirror, it does not welcome what comes nor chase what goes. All phenomena naturally manifest in silence. When the mind is still, the wind becomes the voice of the Dharma, and flowing water, the scriptures. The world has no words, but a quiet heart can hear all truths." 6. Wisdom, prajna. Finally, the Buddha said, the culmination of the 6 paramitas is wisdom, prajna. This is the light he perceived beneath the Bodhi tree. In the deepest night, he saw the cycles of life, saw beings trapped by desire and bound by fear, yet unaware. His heart suddenly became clear, as if a window opened in a 1,000-year dark room. All conditioned things are like a dream, a bubble, a shadow. Prajna is not cleverness, not knowledge, but the ability to see emptiness. When one sees that all things arise and cease due to conditions, one no longer clings or fears. At that moment, the mind is like a clear sky, cloudless, unhindered, boundless. After the Buddha finished, the world seemed to fall silent. The sunset's last rays touched the eaves of Jetavana, and the air was filled with the scent of wood and the whisper of the wind. The monks folded their hands in reverence, their eyes shining with gentle light. The Buddha spoke slowly. The 6 paramitas are not meant to make you flee from the world, but to teach you how to live within it. In generosity, learn compassion. In morality, find purity. In patience, see strength. In diligence, awaken constancy. In meditation, gain peace. In wisdom, perceive truth. When all 6 unite, the heart no longer stirs with the winds, and the practitioner has reached the far shore. One evening, under the silver glow of the moon, the disciples sat around the Buddha. Someone asked, "World-honored one, you say that all beings suffer. How should we comfort them?" Can mere wisdom and awakening truly ease their pain? The Buddha remained silent for a moment, then spoke slowly. Wisdom and compassion are two indispensable powers in practice. With wisdom, one can see clearly, understanding that the suffering of life arises from ignorance and attachment, learning to let go, and perceiving impermanence. The mind is no longer trapped by emotions or cravings. But if one has wisdom without compassion, the heart may grow cold and indifferent, caring only for one's own liberation while forgetting the suffering of others. Such awakening is like a river without water. It has form, but lacks the warmth of life. Compassion, on the other hand, is the other side of awakening. It allows us, even while understanding the impermanence of the world, to care, help, and love. But if one has compassion without wisdom, one may be swayed by emotions, trapped in sorrow, pity, or attachment, like a rudderless boat drifting in the fog. Therefore, I say, wisdom awakens, compassion completes. Wisdom shows us how to escape suffering. Compassion makes us willing to lead all beings to liberation. When a person possesses both the clarity of wisdom and the gentleness of compassion, he is neither swallowed by suffering nor indifferent to the world. Such a heart can save itself and others alike. This is true awakening. The Buddha then told a story. Once, his disciples went out for alms and came to a poor household. The owner, though destitute, offered rice in a cracked bowl to the Buddha and the monks. Though simple, the offering was filled with sincerity. Afterwards, a disciple sighed, "This donor is so poor, yet still gives so freely." The Buddha smiled and said, "He is not poor. His heart is richer than gold. Because he is willing to let others' hunger be relieved first, this is selfless love. He seeks no merit for himself, only the peace of others." The Buddha called this heart immeasurable compassion. He said, "Disciples, let your hearts expand little by little, from yourself to your family, from family to friends, from friends to strangers, from strangers to all beings and all things. When you can love all beings with equality, your heart becomes no different from the Buddha's." He continued, "Do not let your mind be stained by anger. Do not let words wound. When your heart is gentle and respectful, your actions compassionate, your speech soft, and your intentions pure, your life will radiate light. If you repay anger with anger, the fire only grows hotter. If you transform resentment with compassion, the wind calms, the waves settle. Most worldly love is mixed with desire and attachment. If love arises from possession, it brings suffering when things are lost. Only pure, unconditional love, neither seeking gain nor fearing loss, can be unborn, undying, neither increasing nor decreasing. Such love is not merely human emotion, but the heart of the universe. It asks no reward, seeks no outcome. It simply cannot help but arise after awakening. From then on, the disciples daily recited the Sutra of Compassion. When walking in meditation, they silently repeated, "May all beings be at peace. May all beings be free from suffering. Whether near or far, whether seen or unseen, May all whose hearts are bound by resentment be touched by the light of compassion. Once, Ananda asked the Buddha, "World-honored one, when you speak the Dharma, you never scold, nor use fear or authority to impress others. Yet listeners feel ashamed of their wrongs and wish to change. Good people rejoice and benefit. Why is this so?" The Buddha replied, "Ananda, words are like seeds. If spoken with ill intent, they plant suffering and hatred. If spoken with kindness and compassion, they grow flowers of goodness in the heart. A word containing compassion is like the fragrance of a flower, purifying the air and warming the heart. A word filled with anger or contempt is like poison, wounding others and stirring resentment. Therefore, the first step for a practitioner is not meditation or chanting, but learning right speech, speaking with purity and goodwill. Every word we utter reflects the state of our heart. If the mind is gentle and pure, the words naturally carry power. They can awaken others and bring peace to oneself. The Buddha's meaning was clear. Language is not merely a tool for communication, but a mirror of practice. How we speak reflects the state of our heart. If one wishes to make the world better, one must first speak gently, sincerely, and kindly. Gradually, the Buddha's disciples also learned this power of gentleness. They went into towns and villages, not teaching people through scriptures, but guiding them with soft words and calm, understanding eyes. They discovered what truly changes a person is not argument or doctrine, but the warmth of being understood. In that land, anger lessened, disputes faded, fear diminished, kindness grew, smiles blossomed, and tranquility prevailed. People said that the Buddha did not just change the teachings, he changed language itself, teaching humanity how to speak with gentleness. One day, the disciples asked the Buddha in the forest, "World-honored one, your Dharma is so complete and pure. Can it remain in the world forever?" The Buddha smiled softly, a smile full of both wisdom and compassion. He said, "All things in the world are impermanent. The Dharma is the same. It manifests according to conditions. When the conditions are right, it appears, and when they are not, it fades. My true Dharma will remain in the world for 500 years. But over time, people will remember only the outward forms. They will build temples, carve statues, burn incense, and bow in worship, yet fail to truly understand the spirit of the Dharma. At that time, the form of the Buddha remains, but the heart of the Buddha is distant. This is what is called the age of declining Dharma. The disciples felt sorrow, and Ananda asked with tears, "World-honored one, if one day the Dharma declines and people are trapped by desire and suffering, how can they save themselves?" The Buddha looked at the bamboo swaying in the wind and spoke softly, "The Dharma never truly disappears. It is only that human hearts have turned away from it. As long as people remember compassion, are willing to act kindly, and cultivate the mind, the Dharma resides within their hearts." The Buddha is not confined to stone statues, nor only within temples. The Buddha is in the awakened, benevolent heart of every being. Wherever the heart still holds light, the Buddha dwells among humans. Finally, the Buddha instructed his disciples. In the future, people may build temples, offer gifts to the Buddha, and seek blessings. But if they do not cultivate the mind, do not act with kindness, and seek only for themselves, the Buddha may be present before their eyes, yet absent from their hearts. Remember, the true protector of the Dharma is not the statue of the Buddha, but a mind that is pure and awake. As long as this heart is passed down, the Dharma will never perish. That night, the night in Jetavana was exceptionally gentle. The bamboo whispered in the breeze, and the moonlight was like flowing water. The disciples sat around the Buddha, their faces illuminated by firelight, youthful yet solemn, reflecting the future of the Dharma's transmission. The Buddha slowly closed his eyes, his voice flowing from a deep stillness. If people can approach their parents with gentleness, all beings with compassion, see all things with wisdom, overcome anger with patience, and dispel illusions with concentration, then, no matter how the world changes, the Dharma will endure among humans. He finished speaking and smiled in silence. The disciples sat with hands folded, understanding that the extinction he spoke of was not the sorrowful end, but the continuation within impermanence. Like the flame passing from one lamp to another, extinguished here, yet burning there. In the deep of night, the Buddha opened his eyes and gazed at the stars, softly saying, "My disciples, all phenomena arise and cease due to conditions. Arising and ceasing is stillness. When I depart, do not grieve. Take the precepts as your teacher, the Dharma as your light. Let compassion continue. Let wisdom flow. If you guard your heart as before and walk the path as before, I have never truly left." From that time on, the Buddha's words were passed down through the generations. The Dharma does not perish. The heart does not perish. If the heart does not perish, the Buddha is always present. If you can save beings with a single thought of compassion, in that moment, you are the Buddha. Those years were the most tranquil and solemn of the Buddha's life. He had passed 80, traveled countless miles, taught for 49 years, and guided innumerable beings toward liberation. Yet his body grew thin, his steps slow. Those feet that had once traversed dusty roads across the land now moved with a weight of deep compassion. Whenever night fell over Jetavana, he would sit quietly beneath a tree, listening to the wind brushing through bamboo, the distant toll of bells, the chirping of insects, and the murmur of the river. Ananda often stayed nearby to watch over him. Seeing the Buddha's pale face and weakened breath, his heart ached. Ananda, concerned, asked gently, "World-honored one, you have spent your life teaching beings, tirelessly traveling. Could you rest a little?" The Buddha smiled faintly, his tone gentle yet firm. "Ananda, the Tathagata did not come into this world to enjoy comfort, but to help beings free themselves from suffering. As long as I can walk and speak, I cannot let the light of wisdom extinguish. My body is like a lamp, burning itself to illuminate others until the flame is spent. Even afterward, the Buddha continued to walk and teach. He traveled through villages and cities along the Ganges, guiding people in practice, comforting the sick and suffering, and instructing disciples in the Dharma. Though his body was weary, he still sat in meditation, collected alms, and taught daily without slackening. One day, outside Rajagraha, he told his disciples, "Everything I was meant to accomplish in this life has been fulfilled. The Dharma has been established in the world, the Sangha is stable, and my disciples have attained insight. In 3 months, I will depart from this body." As he spoke, the earth trembled slightly, as if responding to the heart of the awakened one. The disciples panicked, tears flowing. Ananda fell to his knees, crying, "World-honored one, if you depart, what shall we do?" The Buddha gently placed his hand upon Ananda's head, his voice serene. "Ananda, do not grieve. All things in the world arise and cease. Flowers bloom and wither. People come and go. This is the law of nature, a truth for the awakened to understand. The Tathagata is merely the one who walks ahead. You too must cultivate your own practice and liberate yourselves with wisdom. As long as your hearts do not lose insight, and you do not forget compassion, you will surely reach the radiant shore." During the following 3 months, though his body grew frail, the Buddha persisted in walking from Rajagraha to Vaisali, crossing the Ganges and journeying to Kushinagara. Along the way, he continued teaching, his words gentle yet firm, repeating the instructions. Take the precepts as your teacher. Let the purity of your conduct guide your actions. Precepts are not chains, but beacons that prevent the mind from wandering or being disturbed. Take the Dharma as your lamp. Do not rely on others or external powers. Let the wisdom of the Dharma illuminate your own path. When you face confusion, do not rush to seek answers outwardly. The answers are within the light of the Dharma in your heart. Do not depend on me personally, but rely on the Dharma. I will depart, but the Dharma will endure. If you cling to the form of the Buddha, you will lose the heart of the Buddha. Do not depend on others' teachings alone. Experience the awakening for yourself. Words of others, no matter how good, are merely signposts. Only by walking the path yourself can you reach the truth. The Buddha's voice was calm and clear, like a lamp flickering in the wind, weak, yet unextinguished. Every word carried compassion and wisdom, impressing deeply upon the disciples' hearts. They understood, though the Buddha would leave, as long as the Dharma remained in their hearts, he would always be with them. Night fell, and the air of Kushinagara was fragrant with gardenias and sal trees. Light and shadow flowed like fire, glinting along the veins of the leaves of the twin sal trees. All was silent. Even the world seemed to hold its breath, waiting for a farewell that none wished to take. The Buddha's body had grown extremely weak. He lay peacefully between the two sal trees, his posture calm as if in sleep, his expression serene as still water. Ananda knelt beside him, weeping uncontrollably, while the other monks stood around, tears streaming from every face. The Buddha slowly opened his eyes. His voice, though faint, remained clear. Ananda, the true Dharma I have taught this lifetime has been given to the world without reserve. The Buddha never hides the Dharma, nor begrudges it. Truth is like sunlight. It belongs to no one. It shines upon all, waiting only for beings to open their eyes and see. Ananda bowed his head, tears flowing, choking through his words. World-honored one, after you enter parinirvana, how shall we rely upon the Dharma? If people stray from the true path, how shall they be guided? The Buddha gazed at Ananda, his eyes filled with compassion. Ananda, do not think that because I depart, the Dharma will disappear. Truth does not vanish with one person's passing. The Dharma has always been present, though people's hearts are often lost and fail to perceive it. As long as you treat the Dharma as your teacher and the precepts as your guide, you will not stray from the path. All things in the world change. Life, wealth, power, they all pass away. Only awakening and compassion transcend time, existing eternally in the pure heart. Hearing this, the disciples wept as one. Ananda bowed and cried, "World-honored one, you are the light in our eyes. If the light goes out, how shall we see?" The Buddha smiled faintly, a smile as calm as the moon. Ananda, the light does not belong to me. It resides in the heart of each of you. I merely show you the lamp. If your heart remains pure, the lamp shines. If it is clouded by desire or anger, the lamp grows dim. Remember, I do not give you the light. You light it yourself. Night deepened, and the stars sprinkled the sky. The Buddha joined his hands in the gesture of reverence and spoke, his voice soft and profound. Monks, remember, all phenomena arise from conditions. All phenomena cease due to conditions. Diligently practice. Do not slacken or forget. Take the precepts as your teacher, the Dharma as your lamp. Do not cling to names or forms. Do not fixate on me as a person. If you follow this, even though I am gone, the Dharma will remain with you. His voice drifted like wind through the bamboo, clear and lingering. The disciples joined hands and chanted in unison, homage to the original teacher, Shakyamuni Buddha. Tears flowed in silent waves, while the Buddha's smile shone like the last star in the night sky. Gentle, luminous, yet not belonging to this world. When the first rays of dawn rose from the east, the sal trees suddenly blossomed together. White flowers covered the ground, filling the air with fragrance. In that moment, heaven and earth seemed to stand in solemn respect. All living things paused, the wind stilled, and birds were silent. Ananda and the disciples wept, understanding that though the Buddha's physical form had entered final nirvana, his awakening, his light, had merged with the universe and flowed into every heart willing to awaken. As the Buddha had said, truth is like sunlight. It belongs to no one, yet as long as you open your eyes, it will always shine. Thus, In that quietest moment before dawn, the twin sal trees bloomed together, their white petals drifting like snow. The world held its breath. The wind was still, the birds silent. The Buddha entered the great stillness, departing the world peacefully. In the tears of the disciples, that silent awakening continued. For what the Buddha extinguished was not life, but ignorance. What he left behind was not form, but light. That light, from that day forward, never perished in human hearts. Across 2,500 years, it continues to shimmer softly. The news of the Buddha's parinirvana spread like the toll of morning bells, shaking all of India. The following dawn, disciples, kings, Brahmins, and people from all directions flocked to the Sala Grove. Thousands knelt in grief, incense smoke curling skyward. A solemn, indescribable sorrow filled heaven and earth. Ananda, tears soaking his robe, bowed deeply, nearly unable to speak. Looking upon the Buddha lying as in sleep, he trembled. World-honored one, we will never hear your teaching again. No one will watch over beings with your compassionate eyes. At that moment, Elder Aniruddha stepped forward. Using his divine sight, he spoke with dignity and calm. Do not weep. The Tathagata has not truly disappeared. Though his body is gone, his Dharmakaya is formless and indestructible. It has no boundaries, does not age, does not die. The Buddha filled all worlds with compassion and pierced through beings' ignorance and suffering with wisdom. The body may be still, but the voice of the Dharma will forever flow in the world. Aniruddha continued, the state into which the Buddha entered is neither existence nor non-existence, neither life nor death. It is like the flame of a lamp merging into the vast emptiness. The lamp is gone, yet the light remains, or like a river flowing into the ocean, no longer separate, only infinite completeness. This is nirvana. Gradually, the disciples' weeping subsided. They understood that what they had truly lost was not the Buddha. The silence before them was not an ending. The Buddha manifested in the physical world, but was never limited by his body. He spent his life pointing the way to awakening, not asking beings to cling to his form. In that moment, people truly understood what Aniruddha meant. The Tathagata does not dwell in coming and going. The Dharma is not bound to birth or death. As attachment to loss gradually fades, the vision of awakening opens. Thus, the Buddha's parinirvana was not merely the end of an era. It became a gateway, leading people to look deeper into the Buddha's path, into awakening itself, to see how it transcends individual life, continuously manifesting across countless conditions. According to Buddhist tradition, Shakyamuni was not the only Buddha. He was merely one awakened being, manifesting in this world among countless Buddhas across infinite times and realms. To become a Buddha is not the accomplishment of a single lifetime. It is the fruit of eons of practice. Through countless lives, repeatedly cultivating compassion, wisdom, generosity, and patience, until all defilements are purified and awakening is perfected. From a historical perspective, we can also say that the Buddha has many different versions of his life. Over more than 2.5 millennia, his story has been told, interpreted, and rewritten countless times, each version responding to the sufferings of a particular era, the mindsets of various cultures, and the diverse questions beings have about liberation. These layers of narrative do not diminish the truth. Instead, they allow the wisdom of awakening to manifest again in countless life circumstances. For this reason, the Buddha did not remain confined to history. His parinirvana was not disappearance, but a return to inherent freedom and clarity. He no longer appears in physical form, yet he transforms into boundless compassion and wisdom, existing in every moment of mindful awareness, in every arising of a wholesome thought. The Buddha's footprints stretch from Kapilavastu to the Bodhi tree, from the deer park to Jetavana monastery, from birth to awakening, from awakening to final cessation. His life was like a perfect turning, a cycle beginning in compassion and culminating in wisdom. Flowers fall in silence, yet the sound of the Dharma is endless. The Buddha enters nirvana, but the light of awakening has never been extinguished. It still shines, still guides, still whispers gently in the depths of every life willing to face suffering and yearning to awaken. All beings can become Buddhas,